It leads us perfectly, I think, onto James Heappey.
He'll not be kind. I wonder how kind you are, James Heappey, hey? We're talking hashtag be kind.
I'm always kind, other than when by necessity I'm not.
Do you think the Prime Minister will be kind to Suella Braverman today, who many people in herself think that is very unkind?
Oh, look, that is whatever the Prime Minister has got planned for today has not been shared with me. And to be honest with you, there is more than enough work for me to do here in the Ministry of Defence rather than worrying about reshuffles.
Do you think that the Home Secretary has overstepped the mark? I mean, Sir Keir Starmer has come out and said that she's demeaned her office by whipping up divisions, and Hamza Yusuf, whose family were caught up in Palestine, said that she has fanned the flames. And the police themselves have said that violence by right-wing groups this weekend near the Cenotaph was unprecedented. And a lot of people say that was directly linked to some of the language used by the Home Secretary.
Well, look, I personally, if I had been writing that opinion piece, I wouldn't have used some of the language that she used. But it is also true to say that Tommy Robinson and his thugs were planning their protest, their counter-protest on Saturday, well before the Home Secretary published her article. It's also true to say that the government of the day does have a responsibility to hold the police to account when there is a feeling amongst society that maybe policing is not being conducted in the way that they would like. And that's perfectly reasonable. Now, normally that would, and in fact, in my view, it should be done privately to chief constables. That's certainly how I reflect my concerns to my local chief constable down in Somerset whenever the community come to me with those. So look, I think, I wouldn't have used that language. The things on Saturday were planned before she published her article, and it is reasonable for the government of the day to share with the police concerns of the communities that we represent, and the Prime Minister has said that he will continue to do that.
How do you think we have emerged, Minister, from the commemoration weekend?
Eamon, sorry, can you say that again?
How do you think we have emerged, looking back, over those 2 days, the protests that took place and the commemorations that took place? How do you think we are as a country having emerged from those 2 days?
Well, look, I think fundamentally, in war memorials in villages and towns across the country and here in London at the Cenotaph, the moment of remembrance was marked immaculately, as it always is. And that's a great credit to the branches of the Royal British Legion and town and village councils across the land who organised those commemorations so brilliantly. And it's fantastic that so many people from the local community turn out to pay their respects. I was in Shepton Mallet and Cheddar in my constituency yesterday, and the turnout was impressive. And the sense of remembering something bigger than ourselves was as palpable as it ever is. But I think, what you're really talking about is what happened on Saturday, and the fact that our Armistice Day weekend, Remembrance Sunday weekend, has been so politicised and so marred in violence. And I do think that that is something that should be a concern to us all. Our society has become rather intolerant of different views.
Funny, you say that's what I'm referring to. And actually, I think I would refer more to what happened in Shepton Mallet and everywhere like Shepton Mallet around the country, because that is the real Britain. London gets the concentration and London gets the headlines. But the people who go out of their way to show that this is something special to them and would never think of disrespecting a Cenotaph commemoration.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And there were people who were stood with me at Remembrance Sunday events in my constituency yesterday who I know disagree with my politics profoundly, and I disagree with theirs. But in those gatherings in small towns like Shepton or villages like Cheddar, those politics were an irrelevance because of the bigger thing that we were there to commemorate. And it just goes to show that, we can do this. We can get it right. We can put the memory of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our country ahead of our short-term political anger. The problem is that there are hundreds of thousands who protested on both sides of an argument earlier in the weekend that clearly couldn't.
Brings me back to your colleague Suella Braverman, because, I mean, as you say, there were problems inevitable perhaps this weekend, long before Suella Braverman wrote her article in the Times last week. But her language for a long time has been inflammatory, and she's received heavy criticism for it. She's called the protests hate marches. There are a lot of people who were protesting who believed in trying to see a ceasefire because women and children are paying a heavy price within Gaza. She called homelessness a lifestyle choice. She talked about immigration as being an invasion. And as you mentioned, she accused the police of bias at a highly sensitive national moment. Do you think the time has come for the Prime Minister to show strength and let her go?
Well, as I said, those aren't words that I would have used myself, and who serves in the government at any moment is a matter for the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister alone.
What about your colleague Johnny Mercer? He said that this Remembrance Weekend, he felt the commemorations were clouded by some of the things that she had said. Do you agree with him?
Look, I think we've discussed Remembrance Weekend. We've discussed that how at the Cenotaph yesterday, but at war memorials across the country, it was observed immaculately. But I have already reflected that I felt that the weekend at large, sadly, was let down by a lot of hate, a lot of anger and too much politics.
Your other colleague, Grant Shapps, said a week in politics is a long time. What did he mean by that?
Well, that a week in politics is a long time. It is.
What was he referring to?
Well, that time moves very quickly in politics and that a lot happens in any given day. And therefore, over the course of a week, an awful lot can happen and a lot can change. And
do you think Suella Braverman will be in her post in a week's time?
A week is a long time in politics.
I knew that was the answer. James Heappey, thank you very much indeed. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. And
thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.